island nation of Sri Lanka stretches for about 68,000 kilometers. The island has constantly been separated and reconnected with the tip of India during the interglacial periods. Fortunately, this has not affected the high degree of endemic flora and fauna. With 25% of the island's original vegetation intact, the most prevalent ecosystems in the country is the rich mangrove wetland systems. The Madampe Lake is a reservoir of nature's beauty, replete with various species native to the lagoon. The total expanse of the lake is about 365 hectares, surrounded by fertile marshy wetlands of 1,640 hectares within the two divisional secretariats of Ambalangoda and Hikkaduwa. Mangroves are exceptional ecosystems lining intertidal coastlines, mudflats, and riverbanks that flirt with the brackish water margins between land and sea. They flourish in tropical and subtropical areas, nurturing mangrove-associated communities by providing resources and livelihood. A diverse gamut of flora and fauna receive sustenance from the richness of these wetlands. Coastal protection from storm, riverbank erosion, stabilizing sediments, and absorption of pollutants are the supplementary functions that occur due to wetlands. Mangrove trees have learned to brave several challenging conditions and have adapted to survive in waterlogged and anoxic soil, as well as to tolerate brackish waters. Ultrafiltration in some mangrove roots enables removal of salts from brackish estuarine waters. Other species have special glands on their leaves that actively secrete salt, leaving visible salt crystals on the upper surface of the leaves. All mangrove species have laterally spreading roots with attached shallow and vertical anchor roots. Because the soil in shallow areas of mangrove forests is typically flooded during high tides, many species of mangrove trees have aerial roots called pneumatophores that take oxygen from the air for the roots. Some species also have prop roots or stilt roots extending from the trunk or have roots that help withstand the destructive nature of tides, waves, and storm surges. Many mangrove trees have a unique method of reproduction. Instead of seeds falling to the soil and growing, they grow while still attached to the parent plant. These seedlings, called propagules, even grow roots. After a period of growth, the seedlings drop into the water, float upright till they reach water that is shallow enough for their roots to take hold in the mud. In the interest of safeguarding the ecological system and resources of the wetland, Naganehiro Foundation Sri Lanka carried out a systematic assessment of biodiversity in Madampe wetland system in 2012. It was discovered that the Madampe wetland had 10 major wetland vegetation types, which nurtured 303 species of plants from 95 families. The plant species included 19 endemics, 8 nationally threatened, and 9 invasive alien species. Three major vegetation types are also found in the wetland system of the Madampa. Terrestrial vegetation are prominently perennial crops like cinnamon. Home gardens constituted for 98 multi-plant species. Mangroves are richer in flora as they provide sustenance to a higher number of species, followed by mangrove mixed swamps. The fauna in the Madampe wetland recorded for 248 species of vertebrate belonging to 121 families, which include 20 endemic and 30 nationally threatened species. The native vertebrate fauna of Madampa represents 30% of Sri Lanka's inland vertebrate species. Dominating the landscape is the species Nipa fruticans from the Nipa palm fringe community that lines the tidal zone banks, serving to arrest bank erosion and locking in precious nutrients for dependent fauna. A sprinkling of Derris trifoliate and Flageria indica are found as vines on shrub vegetation, with canopy height variations depending on site conditions. Bruguera sexangula and trees of the brackish transition zone, Annona glabra, are found on higher ground mangroves. The Madampa wetland is home to a species of mangroves called Kerala, scientifically known as Soneratia sicularis. The Kerala is a productive plant for the local residents. A delicious drink is prepared with the ripe Kerala fruits that contains lot of vitamins and medicinal properties. The Soneratia fringe community is the tallest mangrove community found in Madampe wetland system. Soneratia sicularis occupies nearly 90% of the continuous canopy volume on the wetland. But the seedlings and saplings of Bruguera sexangula continue to fight for space between these mighty canopies. Lower in the ranks are the various species of Annona glabra, Cerebra mangus, and Syzygium carophyllatum, as shrubbery growth, and at a lower layer, Acrosticum aureum, all growing together to breathe life into the beautiful lagoon. However, given the high gradient of the bank, the horizontal distribution of such mangroves should have been narrower, restricting tidal change to a few meters. The uneven shrubland fringes of impenetrable hibiscus stelaceous spread across the water edge of the receding mangroves are stark reminders of the wetland being a victim to human exploitation. It would be beneficial to introduce mangrove tree species like Bruggeria sexangula, Cineracia cillaris, and Niper fruticans to these sites through suitable test evaluations and replace the existing bank shrub lands to improve the ecological and economic performance of the habitat. The presence of mangrove species Cineracia sicularis and the ground conditions are evidence that the Madampe wetland were presumably covered by a dense mangrove forest just a few decades ago. Unfortunately, the richness of these wetlands have become prey to human activities as we witness a sad decline from a flourishing nature's treasure to a mere source of livelihood to the locals. The abundance of flora and fauna and the fertility of nature that once prevailed on this lagoon is on a steep decline, facing constant threats from indiscriminate human activities. Urban development, claiming of land for cinnamon cultivation, growing tourism, and tree felling for wood and construction is become like a slow poison, consuming the silent suffering lagoon. The last few decades have taken its toll on the wetland, with the rampant felling of mature trees, leaving a loss for superior seeds and propagules that have led to the poor and weak regeneration and development of the coastal wetland. Understanding the uniqueness, significance, and potential of the Madampe wetland, measures are being taken for the conservation of different species of mangrove fauna and flora, creepers, and various aquatic species abounding in the area, as well as birds and insects, all for the benefit of future generations. Naganahiru activities on mangrove restoration work through a three-pronged approach that included assessment, restoration, policy guidance, and communication. Scientific and community-based assessments identify ecological damage and priority options for mangrove restoration. Community-based restoration happens through the application of the bio-rights finance mechanism. This is a mutually beneficial provision that allows the community to receive financial capital to rebuild livelihoods and in return provide environmental services to the coastal restoration activities. Policy guidance and targeted communications are aimed towards green construction to influence coastal resource management policies and increase general awareness on the value of coastal ecosystems. The Naganehiro Center for Environmental Education was established in 2008 at the Madampe Lake Wildlife Sanctuary, which was set up with a concerted effort to focus on the conservation of mangroves and the biodiversity of coastal resources. With financial assistance from the European Union and Global Nature Fund in Germany, the initiative was targeted at post-tsunami restoration of mangroves and the education and rebuilding of livelihoods in tsunami-affected communities in Sri Lanka. The center also promotes the knowledge and appreciation of nature through natural floating outdoor classrooms, elevated boardwalks through mangroves, which feature interpretive science about the habitat. Surrounded by the peaceful and pristine stretches of nature's beauty, these idyllic classrooms provide limitless educational opportunities about the rich biodiversity of the mangrove ecosystem. A subset of the center is the Mangrove Educational and Demonstrations Garden. It was developed with the aim of raising awareness on the importance of the coastal environment among school children, adults, community groups, government field officers, and the fishers community of the southwest coast of Sri Lanka. In an effort to improve awareness for the Madampe Lake, the Education Center on Mangroves Ecosystem facilitates for local and foreign students to avail an opportunity for real-time learning experiences. The outdoor classroom teachings, field practices with lake visits create an unprecedented atmosphere, leaving students with learning for a lifetime. This will also create a platform for research students to work on doctorates related to the wetland system. The Naganehiro